Humility and pride are forces that shape our actions, relationships, and worldview. On a deeper level, both are connected to how we perceive ourselves and our place in life. Pride, when unchecked, can distance us from others, create emotional barriers, and trap us in a narrow and rigid view of who we are. Humility, often misunderstood as weakness or submission, is actually a powerful virtue that opens us to wisdom, growth, and inner peace. In Buddhism, these concepts are addressed not only philosophically but also practically. Buddhist teachings invite us to reflect on the self and our interdependence with everything around us. By dissolving illusions of separation and superiority, we can access a more harmonious way of living and relating. Today, we'll explore what Buddhism teaches about pride and humility. We'll reflect on how these forces affect our lives and learn practices to help us cultivate true humility while overcoming pride. The goal is to offer insights that can transform your emotional and spiritual journey, bringing balance, lightness, and clarity to your path. In Buddhism, pride is seen as a manifestation of attachment to the self, reflecting our tendency to overvalue personal identity. This attachment arises from the mistaken belief that we are separate and independent entities, when in reality, we are deeply interconnected with everything around us. This inflated sense of self creates barriers, it fuels competition, hinders empathy, and prevents us from recognizing the true nature of life, which is impermanent and interdependent. Pride can manifest in different ways. There is explicit pride, which seeks validation and constantly shows off, and more subtle pride, which appears as resistance to change or the belief that we already know everything we need to know. Both are defenses against the fear of inadequacy or loss of control. Buddhist teachings remind us that the self is, in fact, a construct. In texts like the Heart Sutra, the Buddha teaches about emptiness, the idea that everything, including ourself, exists only in relation to other factors. For example, a tree is not just a tree, it depends on soil, water, sunlight, and countless other elements to exist. Similarly, we are also a collection of causes and conditions. When we understand this, pride begins to lose its power. There's no need to place ourselves above others, because we are all part of the same flow. This understanding does not diminish our value but liberates us from the pressure to prove something to the world. Reflecting on pride helps us identify how it impacts our thoughts and behaviors. Ask yourself, which areas of my life are driven by the need for validation or superiority? Simply recognizing this is the first step in transforming our relationship with the self and with others. In Buddhism, humility is not seen as submission or self-denial but as a state of openness, lightness, and acknowledgement of the truth about ourselves and the world. Being humble means being clear about our limitations without undervaluing ourselves while recognizing the worth and contributions of others. It is a posture that allows us to learn, grow, and deeply connect with life. A fundamental teaching of Buddhism is the recognition of our interdependence. When we understand that everything we are and have results from an infinite web of causes and conditions, arrogance becomes meaningless. Our achievements are not solely ours, they were made possible thanks to the help, efforts, and resources of countless other beings. This perspective naturally leads to humility, as we realize we are not alone in our journey. Humility also helps us cultivate wisdom. When we approach life with an open and receptive mind, free from the arrogance of thinking we already know everything, we become more capable of learning from situations, people, and even challenges. The Buddha often praised the beginner's mind, one that is not bound by rigid preconceptions, but is always willing to explore and discover. Moreover, humility brings inner peace. By letting go of the need to prove our worth or compete for recognition, we free ourselves from a heavy burden. Instead of seeking external validation, we find satisfaction in simply being and contributing genuinely to the well-being of others. A practical example of humility is reflecting on the moments when we received help. Think of someone who supported you during a difficult time, whether a friend, a mentor, or even a stranger. Recognizing and expressing gratitude for these people not only makes us more humble, but also strengthens our bonds and reminds us that we don't have to carry the world alone. By cultivating humility, we begin to see it as a path to wisdom and freedom. It's not about diminishing ourselves, but aligning with reality and living more truthfully and fully. Humility is like a garden that needs to be nurtured with intentional and consistent practices. Overcoming pride and developing this essential quality requires mindfulness, reflection, and conscious actions. Here are some Buddhist practices that can be incorporated into daily life. 1. Meditation on interdependence. A fundamental Buddhist practice is to contemplate how we are interconnected with everything and everyone. Take a few minutes to reflect on something you value, like a meal or a personal achievement. Ask yourself, who or what made this possible? Visualize the people, natural resources, and even circumstances that contributed to it. This meditation dissolves the sense of separation and reminds us that we are part of a greater whole. 2. Practice of altruistic service. Altruistic service, or seva, is a powerful way to transcend pride. Dedicating time and energy to helping others, whether through volunteer work or simple acts of kindness in daily life, shifts the focus away from ourselves. By practicing altruism, we realize the genuine joy of giving without expecting anything in return. 3. Acceptance of criticism with compassion. Pride often makes us defensive in the face of criticism. To cultivate humility, practice listening to feedback with an open mind. This doesn't mean accepting every criticism as truth, but considering that there may be a lesson in every comment. When resistance arises, ask yourself, am I protecting my ego or seeking the truth? This practice strengthens our ability to grow without feeling attacked. 4. Contemplation of impermanence. Impermanence, a cornerstone of Buddhist teachings, reminds us that nothing is fixed, not even our identity or status. Reflecting on this helps us put things in perspective. What seems like a source of pride today may change tomorrow. This understanding should not evoke fear but acceptance. Embracing impermanence allows us to adopt humility with lightness, recognizing that everything is transient. 5. Cultivation of gratitude. Gratitude is a natural antidote to pride. Start or end your day by listing 3 things you're grateful for. It could be something small, like someone's smile, or something bigger, like an achievement. This practice reminds us that much of what we have is not just our merit but the result of external contributions. 6. Remembering teachers as examples of humility. Many spiritual teachers, including the Buddha himself, lived with great simplicity and service. Reading their stories or reflecting on their examples can inspire us to adopt a more humble approach in our own lives. These practices do not demand perfection but consistency. By applying them in daily life, we begin to experience an internal transformation. Pride diminishes, and in its place, genuine humility arises, not diminishing us but strengthening us and connecting us to the world in a truer, more compassionate way. While humility is an essential virtue on the Buddhist path, it is equally important to cultivate it without losing self-confidence. Humility is often mistaken for submission or self-denial, but Buddhism teaches us that the balance between these two aspects, humility and confidence, is what leads to a harmonious life. Humility does not mean ignoring our talents or achievements. In fact, recognizing our strengths with honesty and gratitude is part of cultivating genuine self-confidence. However, this confidence must be free from arrogance or the need for external validation. The focus is on using our abilities compassionately, contributing to the well-being of everyone around us. A classic example of this balance can be found in the life of the Buddha himself. He never boasted about his enlightenment but did not hide it either. He shared his teachings with confidence, but always with humility and respect for the unique journeys of each individual. Practically, we can develop this integration of humility and confidence in several ways. Recognize your strengths, accept your limitations, and trust your intentions. If your actions come from a place of compassion and service, there is no room for ego. Your confidence will be authentic and well-directed. True confidence comes from a deep connection to our essence, and humility helps us access that state. When we find balance, we stop seeking validation or superiority and start living with authenticity and security. Humility and pride are forces that can shape our lives in very different ways. While pride distances us from others and ourselves, humility reconnects us to the natural flow of existence, bringing peace, wisdom, and growth. By exploring Buddhist teachings, we learn that humility does not diminish us but strengthens us, while the balance with genuine confidence helps us live authentically and with purpose. Remember, being humble does not mean hiding but allowing your light to shine in a true and compassionate way. With each practice, you align more with the wisdom and balance Buddhism offers, transforming not only your journey but also the world around you.